Hello, this is me, JD and I thought I'd do a video about emulating a Pentium 1 PC with Windows 98 2nd edition. What this is, it's similar to Oracle VirtualBox, but it's not a virtual machine. And the idea is that if you want to play really old games on Windows 10, say Windows 98 era, 95, 98, they're not going to run. And I've tried a few of them and it just doesn't work. I thought, is there an emulator? So I did try Virtual Machine Oracle, and it didn't work very well. And it kind of worked, but there's no 3D support. I tried XP on it, and it ran, but there was no 3D support for it. So I thought, what about Windows 98? So I looked around, and there is an emulator, and this is it. It's called PCEM, and I've had to set this up. It's taken me about 2 days to do it. And what you can do is you can start by setting up a hard file, which is like a virtual or actual hard drive file. Then you basically pick the machine you want to run, and basically you've got a list of this going on, and I picked the most modern is at the bottom, because you've got like 486, 386 right down to the older ones. I went for this one, and you have to pick a processor. Now this machine, my actual physical machine, is a 3rd gen I series Ivy Bridge, and apparently I thought it could go up to the 300 megahertz Pentium, I think it must be P2, Pentium 2, and my machine can just about do 166 megahertz with a little bit of audio stuttering, but it plays pretty good. Anything above that and it struggles on this is a 3rd gen I series, so you need something later, about the level that I've got as a physical machine, and later, and you could maybe hit these higher end 300 megahertz. But I've been experimenting with, you've got Intel, AMD, and Cyrix, which is the same difference as the Intel, it's just not Intel. But I've gone for it doesn't look like much, 166 megahertz, but actually most games generally in that era do run on something that's around 200 megahertz, and if preferably with MMX. So what I'm going to do is start up the virtual machine, put it on. This took a while to set up. I had to set up the cylinders on the hard drive thing, or it wouldn't work. And installing Windows was fairly straightforward, Windows 98 2nd edition, but getting the drivers for the graphics was a pain. It was really difficult, and I only just managed to get sound working about 2 hours ago, so this is like day 2. Might just be a little bit. So this is Windows 98 2nd edition, and it's a real installed version. It's not like some weird emulated equivalent. It's an actual Windows 98 installation, and it runs kind of like a normal emulator, say for PCSX2 or Amiga or Atari or whatever. It's the same basic difference, and it runs with a real an emulated processor, and it works reasonably well. It is only about 166 megahertz, which is really quite slow. And if I push it any faster, I get issues with sound sticking and this kind of thing. So there's the start menu. I installed one other game. It's a racing game. I'll show a couple of these games. I want to install another game, Tomb Raider 2, see if it can deal with that. I've got a benchmark and system info program called Everest, and this is from about 2005. And what you have to do normally is, if you're not going to use the optical drive, you have to make images with IMG burn, and you can basically make discs without actually having to use an actual physical disk, and it creates an image of any program you want, and then you can put it in the optical drive and it will do it. So we've got motherboard, CPU, and it comes up and it says 133 megahertz MMX. That's the best I can hope for on my physical hardware. I thought it could go up to 300 megahertz, but apparently it's not possible unless you go higher with a better I series or an AMD equivalent. So it's got MMX, that's important because that means the games run a bit better. And the motherboard, there's the MMX. Okay. It says 1997, the BIOS. So I've got 127 megabytes of memory, 120 meg. and a 4 gig hard drive file. That's more than enough, to be honest. Northbridge, an award BIOS. Anything else? Windows. Yeah, the graphics card says it wouldn't give me 3D unless I had Voodoo. I just set up Voodoo on it. So if I come out of here and I go, you can't see my actual physical mouse because my screen recorder doesn't record the where is it? Oh. I've only been using this for about 3 days. You can set the graphics, and it had to be Voodoo, or it wouldn't get 3D, and most of the drivers are already on Windows, but I did actually, I think I installed one which I downloaded and it worked fine. So yeah, it largely covers, if you were using Windows 98, it should cover most of this already, most of it. But a lot of these older ones are for 486, 386 and 286 machines. So I went for these higher ones, and this is the only one that worked, the Max 64. Okay, so bring that back. So after a lot of messing about, I've got it working. So we go to settings, go to control panel, display, and what we've got is settings. I've got it, because if I go higher with it, it can struggle a little bit. I can go higher colour, but 16-bit colour covers most of it. You can't play a game unless it's in 16-bit colour. It's all pretty basic because it is obviously just stock Windows 98. You can change your background. I haven't actually put much of a picture on the background. You can got screensavers, they work. All the flower box and the maze. But it does seem to work. But what the main thing is, you're going to want to be playing games on it, I suppose. Got only one with the thing. I don't know what advanced power management support is. I don't know what that is. But everything else, the display adapter is that. And the audio wouldn't work, and I had to mess about with that one, because you can change the audio setup on it as well with the on the emulator. So Sound Blaster. So I managed to get it working. I've got a lot of messing about. So let's look at a game. Let's look at got Revolt, which is a racing game. Let's have a look at this. Takes a bit of time. I might have to edit this out actually. Of course, I'm recording this as well, so. I would do the Oracle one, but I can't get the guest editions to work properly on it, and it's really weird with that. I don't know what was going on with that. The VMware needs special drivers for Windows, so it works within the virtual machine, where this doesn't use a virtual machine, so this can use the optical drive directly, but not. I haven't got a floppy drive on this system anyway. Okay. I've got it set up on. I'll check the graphics. Hang on a minute. It's a little slow. I mean, I am recording it as well. 802.16 is just probably pushing it a little bit. Yeah, it's pretty basic. But let's see if we can get it running on here. I did try it before, but I've been messing about with the CPU, going between the Cyrix and AMD ones, and. I want to go back. I want to go to time trial. Okay. Loads fairly reasonably fast in general. It does once it gets going, of course. So this is, it can be a little bit sort of stodgy, a little bit choppy, a little bit, but it's playable. I mean, it's not amazing. I mean, it is emulating a lot of stuff, but if I go too low with the CPU, the emulator will run better, but the game will run slower because it's on a slower CPU. If I go higher with it, the system will struggle with the CPU, but then the game will work better, but the CPU won't work as fast because my physical hardware is... I thought it would cover everything up to about P2. So I'm stuck on the sort of 133 megahertz P1 without NNX or with NNX. That's about it. But I am recording this as well, but that's not a whole lot of... Oh, I'm stuck on it. I tried playing this game, I actually downloaded this a few days ago and it wouldn't run on Windows 10 at all. It's reasonable. Yes, I wish to quit. So just out of interest, that's my CPU. Oops, I'll bring it back. Damn it. And that's eating... Actually, the memory's not too bad. The CPU is only 41%. So it is using 4 cores. It's not maxing it out, so it's about almost 50% of my CPU there. So it's hardly being used at all. I'll fit it into 15. This is a bit slow. It's a little bit. This is pushing it a little bit, to be honest. That's annoying. Right. This is the best it's going to play in terms of smoothness. There is another modes, but they don't look right. All the textures are corrupted. If I do 3D glide or something or other different, it's playable. I mean, it's not pretty to look at because of it's a bit low texture and everything. It's a little bit slow, but again, just to show what it can do, it's capable. If you've got a better processor that's 4th Gen I series, around that level or better, then it should work at a better rate than this, and I'm running this on a 3rd Gen I series, so this is a little bit kind of, it's just viable at Pentium 1 emulation. Maybe there's some settings I'm not setting up, or I've been using it for a couple of days, so it's
You have entered a restricted area.
Some of these games will work on Windows 10 and Windows 7, Windows 8, but some of them just refuse to work, especially Windows 98, 95 era. It's most of them, I don't know. I tried a few and they just don't want to work, or they're really buggy. It's playable. I don't think it's too bad. It's not like I couldn't play it like this. I can play it like this. Okay. Oops. I haven't got a gun. Have I not got a gun? What? I've not got a gun. Okay, I'll stop there. Yeah, come out of that. So that's Windows 98 2nd edition running on PCEM. And I'll come back for a second video because I think it deserves a little bit more of a kind of a more in-depth thing about how you do the images to load something in, and I'll come back in part 2.